Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is to help you create ecosystems and environments where people thrive. Look, today's conversation is about something that I truly believe deeply in: following your passion, giving back, and building partnerships that actually make a difference. Our guest today brings more than 15 years of experience, literally half the time that I've been alive, in community outreach, program development, event planning, sponsorship strategy, and has dedicated their work to helping companies understand the power of connecting with local nonprofit organizations, not just to serve communities, but to strengthen their business in meaningful ways. This is a conversation about impact with intention, about moving beyond feeling good to real sustainable community duplicatable change. And it's about what's possible when purpose isn't just optional but foundational. If you are a leader, founder, change maker, organizational expert, asking how to align passion with impact intentionally and with purpose, you're in the right place. Let's get to it. Stacy.
Wow, Kyle. I didn't know you were talking about me. I was like, that must be somebody else.
It's so good to see you.
It's very, thank you for having me. So I'm glad to be here. Really
I appreciate you so much. And I know we were talking offline, and this is your first official podcast. So I just want to thank you for blessing me with your presence. And it's such a privilege to know you. You are truly an amazing human being. There's a lot of people that I meet that are doing great work. But honestly, Stacy, it's a little shady in regards to like who they are, and they hide their heart. But you lead with your heart. You have built something truly sustainable and successful. And before we get into all of the questions, I just want to ask you, who are you and what continues to keep the fire burning for this type of work?
Who am I? That's a great question. I am. I do lead with my heart. I'm a passion person. That's what I always say. My highs are high, my lows are low.
Mm-hmm.
I'm truly a feeling person, and probably because I grew up that way. I grew up. My dad was a pharmacist, had his own business. My mom was his right and his left hand, and
I love it.
When he was always late coming home because he had to deliver that medication to that last person who needed it, and I grew up, that's what our dinner conversation was every night. So I kind of like grew up with it in me, there's a way to give back. I'm fortunate, and what I do, I try and put myself in other people's places, and everybody's been through their own stuff, but you go through your own things, and you take that with you, and you build on it, and you just you move forward, and you try and make a positive impact in the community. So I saw growing up, and that's kind of what I see going forward.
When you think of the word impact, like what comes to mind? What does that mean to you personally?
It means a lot of things, because impact doesn't mean donating $1 million. Impact can be just you don't know what even asking about someone's day can bring to someone, right? If no one's asked or talked with them. So impact can be a lot of things, but basically for me, it's just getting the word out on whatever cause you're involved with, and like seeing if there's a need for change, and just communication, spreading the word.
Yeah. Do you remember, for me, I love these conversations so much because when I ask questions, it requires me to really reflect on the answer that I would give if somebody was asking me those questions. And with this question, I think about the first community project and partnership that has really stuck with me and has stuck with me for years. And it continues to keep my fire burning in the work that I'm doing. And as a former teacher and educator and leader within a school, I'll never forget that time that I curated a relationship with a gentleman that donated specific set of computers and resources for students. And the look on the mom that couldn't afford the computer and thought that she had to give it back. The look on her face when she knew it was the gift for her son to be able to go to college. And I just remember those tears, and it was just a beautiful moment. Do you remember the first community project or partnership that really, really stuck with you and resonates with you today?
The first, probably, I don't know if I can remember the first, but I can probably remember some early on.
Yeah.
My mom is a breast cancer survivor, so for a long time that was, and she's a survivor, so
Yeah.
that was something that kind of resonated with me, and that I did the walk for a number of years, and just the year that I went after that my daughter was born, my mom came and I had her in the stroller, and just how important it was for me to be there. And it was also one of the things I did a walk in support, a longer walk, one of those 2-day walks after actually I had an accident at one point, and I had broken my jaw, and that was like, I
Right.
was determined to get back in shape and get back, out there and to have an impact. So
Of course.
yeah, so that was something that was very close to my heart, and still is for,
Yeah.
but has been for a long time. That was over, fortunate to say, over 30 years ago. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stacy, you've been doing this work for a long time.
Yeah.
What keeps you committed? Like, what keeps you energized?
Just the feeling that there's still a lot to do. There's just still a lot to do, and it's baby steps, right?
Yeah.
It's baby steps. Yeah. I work in the housing space now. We have this fantastic grants program, and the grants are $3,000 to $5,000. They're not making huge impacts, but they're making impacts.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah. So
that's an interesting point that you just brought up, that, they're $3,000 to $5,000. They're not these big dollars, but they're still making an impact. But there's such a misconception, especially in the philanthropic giving space, that you have to make these $3 million or $30,000 or $300,000 investments in gifts to really make a dent. Can you talk about the importance of how, or the psychology behind, like, why smaller gifts are just as important as some of those big gifts as well?
It's the small gifts, obviously, that add up, right? And if you're spreading your word little by little on what you're doing, it's your small gifts that are going to add up, and it's going to increase the number of folks you're reaching. It's certainly a big, it's always nice to get a big gift, but the small gifts are going to make a difference. So that they're going to help you reach more of a critical mass. So.
Now, I know you focus on community engagement as well, especially from the corporate side and companies engaging with their communities. What do you think most companies misunderstand about community engagement, and where can they do better?
It's so interesting that you asked that. I would say, and some of the things that I've done and some of the things I do, companies are really just looking for exposure, and which is great. We certainly want to give companies exposure, but I think in a lot of cases, companies are also looking to do the right thing, looking to see what touches at their heartstrings. I'm involved in some work around neurodiversity employment, and I think if given the choice and getting to the right person, that the companies really want to do the right thing and be inclusive in those capacities, and figure out what they can do to get there. So
now you said
so it's kind of neurodiversity, like autism related issues. So yeah.
Now, why that work? What, and it's interesting because there's always a story behind someone's dedication to a cause, or someone's motivation, or the catalyst that keeps them, that spark alive for them. Yeah. What's the story behind that cause, and what would be your message to companies if you had a microphone to speak to all companies on why that work is important?
It is very close to my heart as well. my son is in college, and 3 years ago, as a high school senior, was diagnosed after several years of just tough times, meltdowns, social awkwardness, a lot of a lot of issues around that. Very, very bright kid, could tell you numbers until you're blue in the face. But some of these other struggles, and as he's moved through this, and as someone who was late diagnosed, I didn't grow up with it. I didn't know anything about neurodivergent individuals, neurodiversity, autism spectrum disorders, and I did what I do when I don't know something, and I dig in. I talk to anyone that will talk to me. I listen, I learn, I read, and come to find out that the unemployment rate for these very bright young adults is 75 to 80%. For unemployment or underemployment. So the ability to communicate in an interview, so even to get a job, the ability to have just moderate accommodations, whether it be working at home a couple of days a week, or whether it be taking, certain types of breaks when you need it, or working if you're not a morning person, working later in the day, if that's not job critical, these are certainly accommodations that these folks, can benefit from. So I've kind of dug right in and working on some initiatives around that in my free time.
Of course.
And outside of my day job right now, that's where my passion is right now.
Stacy, I really appreciate you sharing that, because it triggers me, because there's probably so much more that I could be doing. There's so much more, especially being the guy that raises money for organizations and does all of this work and helps other organizations grow. There's some passion projects that I care about that maybe I've put on the back burner. Can you talk about how you balance doing the work for the organization that, essentially pays the bills, but then still you're still committed to doing the work in the neurodiversity space, so that you can be able to grow that as well?
So it helps that my day job is also something that I feel some passion around, and work around the Realtor Association and their foundation. We work a lot on met housing needs, so it's obviously also something very important. So I think that's a big help to it.
Yeah.
But as someone that is I'm technically a 30-hour employee, but not really, because you know how that works. Yeah. But I have some flexibility at work. I take my Fridays for sure off, and I devote exclusively to some of the neurodiversity and issues. And I kind of make it a priority. I just look for people who will talk to me at the end of the day, early in the morning. I think when we talked initially, it was early in the morning. So and it's a networking game for me. It's always networking. I'm networking in both of those spaces almost all the time. And it's you never know who you're going to meet and what kind of connection they have to the issue, or to someone else that you're going to connect with on them. So I'm a big connection person.
Now, I guess my question for you is, this is your life, right? This isn't just a career. This isn't just a job. Was there someone early on in your life, or throughout your experiences, throughout your career, that influenced your passion for service and doing this type of work?
I think that it just goes back to how I think I was raised, and how I think they were dedicated to the healthcare field, and my parents were definitely dedicated to the causes that were important to them, and I kind of saw that was how we I'm Jewish, and how our life revolved around things that were going on in the synagogue, and how community service and doing for others is just one of the things you just do. So when I went to college, I wasn't sure what I was gonna, I was a political science major. I thought I'd go on to law school. It didn't work out like that, but I went on, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be doing something for other people. So I went and got my master's in public administration, and I ended up in the late 90s working in the welfare to work space. So I was working with training people who are going back to work. And for a bit there, I thought I wanted to go into corporate, into the corporate HR side. And I did for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't bad. It just, I became a point that actually that's when I had my accident, and I had broken my jaw, and I had a number of surgeries, and I had a number of infections. I was sepsis at one point, actually, and I wasn't a 50% chance. They told my family I was going to make it, and I came through, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing the right thing. And that's kind of like, don't sweat the small stuff, and most of it is small. And I'm like, I'm not doing the right thing. This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. So
that's powerful, Stacy. I didn't even know that one.
yeah, I figured, but it was a big part of why I kind of pushed my way back out of the corporate HR back into the nonprofit and that side of yeah. So
now tell me about your work now. Like, how are you supporting your organization? What are some of the projects or initiatives that you all are working on, and how can we support this work as well?
Through the Canopy Housing Foundation, we work on unmet housing needs. I'll tell you what we're working on currently and how that can be supported. We are running an auction right now that runs through Friday at 9 p.m. And we have about 170 items that are available for bidding at bidforcanopy.com. And that all the funds that we raise from this, which we're anticipating 30,000 plus, going to go back into our grant programs that we do in the spring of every year. We have another initiative that we'll celebrate also at the end of this auction period. We do a 5K every October that's called Strides for Shelter. And we will award the proceeds from the race to our beneficiary this past year, who was Project Outpour. Every year we select a different beneficiary, and we are pleased that we have donated over $212,000 in our this will be our 9th year, of the race. So in our 8 years. So we'll announce the proceeds at this event on Friday. During the year, we do it's a realtor project, but realtors come together and do a habitat-like program where we work on some housing repairs, small projects for about 300 realtor volunteers. We run a large grants program that gives out in excess of between Mecklenburg, Iredell, and Haywood counties about $100,000 every year. That's raised through our events as well as our member ability to donate different, through their due, like they can make an optional donation through their dues. So we go from one event to the other at Canopy. We really, and then I have some work on, that's on the association side, which is my corporate, piece of the job. But we do a big expo and a variety of other events through the year that I sell sponsorships and whatnot on. So a lot going on. Working really, a lot of people don't know that the Realtor Association isn't just about selling houses, that we're about empowering realtors to give back in the community. We have a huge volunteer network of realtors that are involved that obviously our 3-person staff couldn't do without them.
Exactly.
We have our own board, so it's a lot going on.
Let me ask you this question, Stacy. A lot of nonprofit organizations run events. You all do them consistently and often. What are some of the advice that you would give to nonprofit founders or even people that want to be able to put on these types of events to be able to raise funds for different causes?
I would say start with, come out the gate slow, set your realistic, set expectations that are realistic, and goals that would be realistic. Rome isn't built in a day, unfortunately. Right. So we've, the first year of our race, our 5K race, I think we gave away, maybe $5,000. A year ago, we gave away right around $40,000. It's, so it's a process. It's a building process. Rely on your team. Don't just, don't take it on yourself. Rely on your team, delegate, spread the wealth, rely on your volunteers, rely on your leadership.
Yeah.
Um, and even if it's a small success, celebrate the small successes.
Of course.
It's a win is a win. If you're raising some funds and you're able to empower someone to do something that they weren't, that's a win. So
now you've been in the fundraising space for some time now, and you've done a multitude of things. What are some of the projects that you've worked on, or the lessons that you've learned throughout this journey that you feel like a young fundraiser, someone that wants to break into it, could really be able to benefit from?
Network. I think my number one is networking. Don't ever let a door close, kind of thing. You just don't know who you're going to connect with, what they're going to know, who they're going to know. Unfortunately, it's a lot of it is still who you know. It's for a lot of things, right? I'm finding that in the neurodiversity with these companies. Certain companies want to be very inclusive, but you can't get into a door unless you know the right people. That's so for a young person, it's just important to remember to always be building your network, and because everybody's got something valuable to contribute. Yeah. So, and you never know when your path's going to cross again with someone.
True. So now a lot of people say networking, and I've never really asked someone like to define how to best network, because networking isn't just going up and introducing yourself to every single individual that you come across. What are some of your tools that you would give, or some insights that you would provide on how can we network more intentionally so that we can be able to grow, whether it's a donor pipeline or whether it's a professional network, whatever that is? What are some of those tools that you would provide?
And times bygone, I probably would have told you I kept this very sophisticated spreadsheet, because I did. But times before LinkedIn. Yeah. But kept a robust. I think having a robust LinkedIn profile is probably one of the best things you can do. But not just to have it there for people to find you. Like, dig into the subjects that you're interested in, and read articles and read people connected to that, and connect with people close to that. Connect with people in the space that you're interested with. Social media is an amazing. It's good and it's bad, but I think that the professional LinkedIn network has had some real value for me. That's really how I navigated the neurodiversity space, because it was something that I entered later, and it was something within the last couple of years, where I had 2 years ago, I probably would have had 3 connections in that space, and now everything is in that space. So it's amazing. You talk to somebody, and then you listen to what they have to say, listen to their advice, listen to who they've talked to, how they've come up. So
how can you talked earlier about the intersection between corporations, business, as well as community engagement? What are some beliefs or strategies that you would provide for businesses to better curate relationships with the community as well as community partnerships?
I think for a business, when I was in that space at one point where I was working with businesses and connecting them, you kind of figure out what where you connect in the community. If you're like through the realtors, we work with a lot of home builders and a lot of appraisers and a lot of loan officers, and you figure out where that niche is, where gosh, there's be an opportunity to give back, kind of thing. If you're a cleaning company, maybe you can do help with something in a shelter, where you're performing a cleaning service or something. So you kind of try and connect with your industry. So yes, you're going to also get those connection to where your strength is, but you're connecting in a way also that may be beneficial, obviously, to the both of you.
Exactly. Let me ask you this, Stacy. If I'm a nonprofit organization and I need resources for my organization, The things that I love that you all do at Canopy is that you donate and provide these resources for the organizations or communities that need it. How would I go about finding an organization like Canopy, and then even potentially garnering those resources that I could be able to utilize with my business?
There is a fantastic, I'm going to give a shout out to a fantastic site and small organization in Charlotte called Share Charlotte. Are you familiar with Share
I
Charlotte?
sure am. Love her.
Yes. Oh, they're fantastic, right? So they're encouraged, they've done their best to encourage the majority of nonprofits in the Charlotte area, I can't say that for sure, to accumulate information on what they're doing, what their volunteer opportunities are, what their needs are. And they've done a really good job. They offer a ton of resources to nonprofits to enhance their own resources, to enhance their fundraising, to enhance their different strategies. They try and offer resources to help them actually reach out and connect with resources in the community. So I think that that's a fantastic resource, and that's where I would enter my area of interest in there and go from there. So
now, would an organization be able to find funders in that on that platform as well?
Funding is a little bit, yeah, I would say not so much funders, but I think they would find other organizations that might be working in their space. And while unfortunately there's a lot of competition for funds, one of the things I truly believe in is I am a collaborative. I believe in collaborating and partnering with other organizations, when you can. So, yeah. So what's one of the things that we're doing in the neurodiversity space? And I know there's competition for funds there, but I've been reaching out to all the organizations in town that are working in the space, and we need to pull the right resources to the right. There's lots of different needs. It's a spectrum for a reason. There's people who they call low support and people who need higher supports, and there's a space for everybody. Unfortunately. So,
how would you define success? Like in the work that you do, how would you define what success feels like or looks like quantitatively and qualitatively?
Oh, it's a hard one. It's hard because you fall short of a goal, you feel like you're not successful.
Yeah.
But that's not, that's not true, right? You've impacted, not to the extent that you want to impact, but you definitely impacted, but again, that thing inside you tugs at you and says, well, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. But for anyone doing fundraising this year, I think it's been a hard year for fundraising. So we may not get to where we got last year on our race, but we had a very impactful race. I don't know what we're giving out yet, but I know our numbers were smaller, with the number of people that we attracted. Our sponsorships were down a little bit, but we made up for it, and we had some team fundraising. So we made the difference up there. So you've got to be able to venture out to different avenues, try new things, to make that impact. And it's still success.
Oh yeah, of course. Stacy, if somebody wants to get into this work and wants to do community purpose-driven work, but doesn't know where to start, what would be your advice to them on where to start and what to do?
Reach out to your community. Find out what people in your friends, your relatives, your neighbors. Find out what they're involved in. Find out talk with them. Find out what their interests are and where they're seeing need in the community. So that would be where I would start. We live up in Plaza Midwood, and we just relocated up this way a couple of years ago, and I had no idea what the need was of this community and my neighbors. And you see, my husband left banking and now works in the school system. I've learned about what the needs are through the schools. So it's basically reaching out to your network, and it doesn't mean you have to have this huge extensive network. Your network is just the people you know. So
that's good. I think that's such a great point, because the various needs are completely different in the various communities.
Yes.
And it's simple things of talking to your neighbors, talking to the various people in the grocery stores where you reside, or going to the council meetings, and really just being an informed citizen will be able to help you understand how you can best contribute to the needs of the community. Stacy, if there's one last piece of advice that you would give people that are listening in, what would be your advice to them?
Um, it doesn't matter what you do, but it's important to know that that to give back in some capacity. We're all we've all been in a situation at some point where we've needed a hand or needed a friend, and it's easy to be there to give that hand to someone. So, and you never know what a simple, how are you means to someone. So it can be as simple as that, reaching out to someone who may not have, maybe in a bad spot. So.
One of the quotes that I heard a while back is that, if all of us do a little bit, we can really make a big dent. If all of us do a little bit, we can really make a big dent. And somebody listening right now, I want you to do a little bit. What is the little thing that you can do? Whether it's go have a conversation with someone new, whether it's volunteer for 1 hour, whether it's contribute $10 to a specific cause, whether it's give your talent or your treasure or your time, to a specific initiative. Similar things that Stacy said, you just got to do something, and you got to get connected with your community. Stacy, I appreciate you so much, for this time, for your first podcast. You did
I made
amazing.
it.
You made it through.
I made it.
I'm so thankful. Where can people connect with you and find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anybody who wants to reach out. So, and I guess the final plug I should give is it is the holidays, right? So there are lots of it's more need than usual, but I think there's always need. But yeah, it's the holiday time, so yeah, giving that little bit, like you mentioned, is important.
I appreciate you so much, Stacy. And anybody listening, a question that we always ask on the Contagious Culture podcast is, what type of culture are you creating? The energy you bring is the culture you create. Make yours worth catching. I'm Kyle King. I'm the host of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I am here with the amazing, the thought leader, the first time podcast. And we talked about the power of purpose-driven partnership and how you can leverage your passion, your purpose to be able to truly make change in your community. We'll see you all next episode.
So thank you, Kyle.